Share a little bit about your journey where courage was an impact?
Ooh, yeah, the very first thing I thought of. So tell the listeners. So I was sexually abused.
Welcome back, Courage, Confidence, Connections podcast fans. I have another episode. I'm Janice Debo, your host, as always. And I have Eliza Anne McDaniel. Did I say all that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Well, she is an author and she does have several names. So we were just laughing about that. But that's her pen name as she wanted to be addressed. And we'll start there. So, welcome to my podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, tell our listeners where you hail from, and then we'll jump into the other issues and talk.
Well, right now I am in Central Texas and have been here for about 15 years, but originally from Virginia. And I moved here about 15 years ago. So it is a big difference, especially the heat.
We're just talking about how excessive it is out there right now.
Oh, right now it's about 95, 96.
I don't envy that. Well, I'm in Central Oregon, and right now we're in the 50s, might be 60. I'm not sure. But
Yeah, I used to live there for 5 years, so I miss that weather.
oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Well,
right outside Portland.
oh, gotcha. So you lived
Hmm.
on the other side of the mountain.
Yes, it's
Nice.
beautiful, beautiful there.
Well, I'm in the high desert, so I'm in the central area. And
Okay.
yeah, so that's great. Well, I'm from North Carolina and you grew up in Virginia, so we both come from the East Coast.
Yes.
Nice. And your life right now in Texas. Tell our audience a little bit about your life in Texas, and we're going to get into some of your subject matter of your books and stuff.
Well, so it started off, me being on the East Coast, and just my journey had taken me from the East Coast to Oregon. And then when my journey ended in Oregon, then it brought me here to Texas. So here I am. I don't know how long I'll be here for, until it might be for the rest of my life, or until spirit guides me in a different way. So it's just time will tell. Yeah.
Nice, nice. I didn't realize you were used to live in Oregon, even though we've talked before. It's been quite a while, but it's
Yeah.
great to reconnect.
Oh,
Now,
yeah.
in your life, you've had quite a bit of a traumatic journey, and what part has courage played in your life? Since that's the theme of my podcast, I always like my guests to share where courage has had an impact or where they've had to muster up courage to do certain things in their lives. So, can you share a little bit about your journey where courage was an impact?
Ooh, yeah. The very first thing I thought of. So tell the listeners. So I was sexually abused from age about 4.5 years old to 17. And when you speak of courage, it was at the age of 17 that in my mind, I said, I'm done with this. I'm not going to do it anymore. Now, the sexual abuse came from our father. And the reason I say our, if I say our and we, it's because I have a twin sister. And it's always, twins will always know this. We always say we instead of I. So when we were growing up, yes, we were sexually abused by him. And at 17, I couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't. And he would always threaten us. If you ever say anything or tell anybody, I'll kill you. And he always used to carry a 38 police special gun with him all the time. He slept with it. It was always in his vehicle. He just always carried a gun with him, probably because of his background when he was younger, growing up. So at age 17, I made the decision and had the courage to say no more. So that night, I locked my bedroom door because he used to come in the wee hours of the morning and molest either me or my sister or both of us. I don't know. We had separate rooms. I decided that's it. And if he wants to kill me, then I guess he'll kill me. And I was so scared. I was so scared. So I locked my door and I literally sat in my bed with the covers up on me, just pretty much staring at that door the whole time.
Mhm.
And then I don't remember what time it was, but I heard and saw the handle of the door jiggle. And boy, my heart was just pounding so fast. And I just figured in my mind, he's going to kill me the next day. Somehow, some way, he's going to kill me. Um, but I finally fell asleep and I had to work the next morning. And I knew he was downstairs in the kitchen and I had to go down there, you know. So I went down there to get my coffee and he was sitting at the kitchen table and I just walked right past him. And all the time I'm shaking like a leaf and my heart is pounding. So I grabbed my coffee. And as I'm walking back towards to go back upstairs, he said, so why'd you lock your door last night? And I just looked at him straight in the eye and I said, you know why? And I just turned around, left, and went upstairs and got in the bathroom, locked the door, you know, hoping he wasn't going to come after me. But it was so weird because that was it. He never touched me after that day, but he still did uh, molest and rape my twin sister up until she was about 20 or 21, somewhere around there.
Oh my goodness. There are no words for that type of thing. None at all. Was he a policeman?
No, no, he had a what do they say, a, a a bad background. He was in a lot of trouble when he was younger. He was in, uh, I say, a gang back when he was younger. He didn't have a very good background, so he had people that would, in his day, come after him. So he was always protecting himself, and even, you know, he just never got rid of that feeling. He would never, if he went out to a restaurant, he would always sit where he could see anybody coming in the door. He was always prepared for everything or anything that may or may not happen. So that's why he just carried it with him the whole time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, what you put up with. So you had to be very brave to lock your door. You had to.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm glad he didn't pursue you after that.
Me
But
too.
your
It,
sister, did you
oh,
tell were you able to tell your sister that you locked your door and
you know, to be honest with you, I really don't remember. I don't remember if I ever did or not. There was just so much turmoil, and he just messed with our minds and everything. And, you know, as a child, I mean, you say, this is my dad, you know, this is my dad. And that part doesn't change at all. Um, but like, you know, like I said, I did muster up that courage and I'm glad I did. And as I got older, it made me think, what if I'd have done this sooner? You know, would he have stopped sooner? And then I started beating myself up. Why didn't I do it sooner? You know, but I know everything's in perfect divine timing. And so
so
I did what,
what kind of an impact did that abuse for so long? I mean, I have a very close friend, fairly close friend that went through it from 6 months to 17 before she walked out. Uh,
yeah.
and so I know it takes just a lot of courage and gumption and ooh, but how did that have an impact on you going forward, like with relationships, trust, that kind of thing?
Um, it really did open my eyes to being aware of who I was with. I would always watch out for body language, eyes, you know, I could see through people. I could see through their intentions. Of course, back then I didn't know what that was. Um, and my sister did not. So I made up my mind I would never date somebody that was abusive whatsoever. And I never did. However, my twin sister had a few relationships that were abusive. Of course, she never told me until after it was over with.
Yeah.
Um, we went on two separate journeys during this whole time. So, um, and that's what I kind of wanted to talk about is how abuse affects people, and it can affect people in different ways. Some in similar ways, but a lot in different ways. But you know what I've noticed is the outcomes are the same. It doesn't matter what type of abuse you go through,
Right.
whether even if it's just rejection issues or not really abuse, but any type of traumas that may affect different people. When they don't heal from it, the outcomes are still the same. They carry anger,
Mhm.
bitterness, unforgiveness, and they have control issues big time.
Mhm.
And if you don't heal from what hurt, well, what I always say is if you don't heal from what hurt you, you'll bleed on those that didn't cut you. So in the relationships, you're going to take out all your pain and suffering and trauma on that person, whether it's your boyfriend or girlfriend or whoever, or even if you get married, you take it out on your husband or your kids or whatever until you heal from those traumas.
Yeah.
And yeah,
So, on your journey of healing, and well, if you want to talk about your first book, why don't you talk about your first book a little bit, and then we'll go to the second one, which is more about your journey on healing.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
let's.
the first book is basically, it starts out with a little bit of background about my dad and my mom, and then us moving, and then it starts where he begins to molest us um, around age 4.5. I always just say 5 to make it even. 4.5, 5 years old. At least that's my memory. I don't remember anything before that, even though my older sister said yes, there was some abuse before that, but I don't remember that at all. So the first book is about that, and then I start when I was writing, I had to do it in chronological order. I couldn't do it any other way. So I share some of the stories of what happened. And like it says on the book, I'm open and honest about exactly what happened because I want to reach everybody that's been through this that can't share those humiliating things that happened to them. And so it goes on and it goes up to my teenage years and marriage and how it affected my marriage and then uh, meeting towards the end of the book meeting a minister uh, that helped me along the way. And then the second book goes into a continuance of the first book about this minister. And that was a different journey, a weird, strange journey. And it affected many people. It affected not only myself, but my kids, my ex, and some friends and family members, and also other people that he knew. That whole journey was just really strange. But I have to say, out of that strange journey came my healing. So I know personally that everything happens for a reason. And that journey, as hard as it was and as strange as it was, my healing came out of it. And so at the end there, at the end of that particular journey, I was able to forgive him wholeheartedly, just like I did my dad.
Yeah.
And so, and I know I always speak about forgiveness, and I know a lot of people, they don't want to hear that right now. But I'm here to say that I wasn't ready to forgive, at one time. It took many years for me to be able to, uh, figure things out. And the journey itself was almost like God showing me step by step by step by step. And even though I didn't understand it at the beginning, towards the end there, it was like all the puzzle pieces were being put together. And it was like, oh my God, this happened because of this. And oh my gosh, this happened because of that. And I could see my healing coming out of it. It was really a spectacular journey, even though it was very, very tough.
The healing journey is not easy. I don't care what anybody says,
Yeah.
regardless of where the abuse or trauma came from. The
Mhm.
healing journey is different for everyone, but boy, when the anger starts to surface, you've got to
Yes.
be ready to realize where it's coming from and that you've got to let it out. You've got to let go of it.
Yes,
Forgiveness takes years too, like you said.
it does.
It's not immediate, and nobody can expect you to just like, well, they didn't mean to do that. Well, yeah, at some level they did. But
Yeah.
but still, forgiveness doesn't involve restoration. They're two different, completely different things. You know, restoration of relationship involves the other person taking responsibility.
Yes. And of course, my dad died back in 1985. But even then, and I said this a while back too. One morning I'm sorry, he was dying. He was in the hospital with cancer, pancreatic cancer. So he was dying, and he called me one morning and asked me to come up, and I'm like, "Are you okay?" And he said, "Yeah, I just need to talk to you." So I went up there, and I was a little nervous. I mean, even him laying there uh, at 75 pounds, eaten up with cancer and tubes and everything connected to him, he patted the side of the bed and said, "Come here and sit down." Well, when he did that, I was 25 at the time and I wasn't healed. And I was nervous to sit on the edge of the bed with him, even though he looked like a skeleton. But I did. And he grabbed my hand. Well, he took my hand and he had tears in his eyes and he said, "Could you ever forgive me for what I did to you?" And I quickly said yes, because I just didn't want this conversation, because at that time it was like all the memories and things came up in my mind, uh, the just everything that happened. It was like flashing before me, and I just wanted to get this conversation over with. And so I said, "Yes, I forgive you." And even though I didn't mean it 100% in my heart, I did a little bit. But all those emotions came up, even anger and hatred for him, but also love for him, because he was my dad.
Mhm.
He was my dad. So, and what I didn't realize that day is the spiritual baton was being handed to me, and that I was the one to bring about the healing in my family. And many years later, the journeys began. I say two separate journeys, but they did begin. And it was years later that I could watch everything unfold, and it was heartwarming and hard at the same time. But you know, I'm here and have tried to speak healing and talk about love and forgiveness to my family.
Yeah, and that's not easy. I remember my dad died of cancer quite a
Hmm.
few years ago, like 35. And I remember when he was on his near his deathbed, not on it, but near it, he just started asking people for forgiveness. And we're not talking my story, but
Yeah,
it's interesting. That happens a lot from what I've heard.
yeah,
People, they know they're dying and then they start feeling the need to forgive others and ask for forgiveness.
yeah.
So,
It was interesting though, because I was the only one that he asked for forgiveness for. He didn't ask any of my sisters, brothers, uh, even though the brothers didn't go through sexual abuse, they went through his anger and physical abuse.
yeah.
But he did not. I was the only one that he asked for forgiveness. That was it. And I didn't know that until uh, a little later on, when I was telling my sisters, at that time, wow, Dad asked for forgiveness, and it's like they got mad at me because I was the only one that he asked for forgiveness. I said, "It's not my fault," you know.
Uh,
But they didn't, and I feel sorry. I felt sorry for them, that he didn't ask for their forgiveness as well, which
yeah.
he should have.
Yeah, that is sad. I know my dad went through the family, whoever was still around at that
Yeah.
time. He did. It wasn't just me, it was thankfully the others as well.
Yeah.
You know, there was different types of abuse within my family, and most of it was neglect or verbal. But
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
verbal abuse does, and I want our listeners to know that if you don't ever use the term "it was just verbal abuse," because that is extremely damaging.
It is. It is. We
And
had all that too: verbal abuse, sexual abuse, just physical abuse, mental, emotional, all of it. Any
oh,
type of abuse, it does lead to all those traumas. And like I said, it's the same outcome with people. They hold in all that anger and bitterness and everything, but they take that out. Like they'll get mad at a situation or whatever, and they're just getting out all of their anger that they've been holding in for so long.
mhm,
I have plenty of family members that are still left that have never healed from this, and every single one of them have the same outcomes with they have huge control issues, um, and anger issues, and they take their anger out on others. It's the same thing. I see it over and over and over.
mhm, mhm. It's not uncommon. I remember with my younger brother and my father getting into literal fist fights. I mean, there was, yeah, and so I do see the control issues within a lot of the family dynamics.
Yes.
And you don't even know you're trying to see control can manifest in so many different ways. Just controlling your circumstances, trying to control not necessarily others, but it can just be trying to control your own environment can be exhausting.
Yes. Yeah. And it's interesting because a lot of people will refer to twins that they're the same, they do the same, they act the same and all that, and that's so not true. That we are two totally different individuals even though we look exactly alike. And with my sister, my twin, um, it's interesting how we took two different journeys. Mine was on a path of healing and awakening and spirituality, and hers was religion, uh, religion, and uh, a path of self destruction, actually.
Yeah, that
And she couldn't hear me, the words that I spoke, and because she wanted me to believe like her, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. It was darkness. I just couldn't, and that separated us for over 20 years.
oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
And it's, I came out of being a preacher's kid and but I'm now walking a completely different path. But it took a long time, and I'm still seeing gradually as I start to write my memoirs, I'm starting to see belief patterns
Yeah.
and thought processes as I look back through over 30 years of writing and in my journals. I'm going, wow, I was really caught up in that. And
Yeah.
the awareness, I'd like to talk about awareness because you woke up and you decided to do something different. Now, let's talk about your confidence. How was your confidence as you came out of this and make a decision to start writing your story? Let's talk about that because I want you to kind of move forward into your second book and your healing some.
Um, well, it's funny because when I was younger, I always used to say, I'm going to write a book, or there should be a book about my life. I used to say that when I was like 12, 13 years old. And I didn't even remember it until I decided to write about it. It's like, oh my God, I used to say that when I was younger. um, but what was the question? Sorry. The confidence. Is that what you said?
I bet you're
Um,
a step
yeah.
that.
I decided I was going to write, and I sat down and my fingers just flew. I know a lot of it was just what I wasn't even thinking. My fingers just flew. I wrote 2 books of 300 and some odd pages within 6 months of each other, written and published within about 6 months of each other.
That's
It
phenomenal.
was a lot of it was channeled, especially the poems, the poetry, um, with my mom, my dad, and my sister. It was just channeled. It was automatic writing, basically. A lot of it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so what was the catalyst to start you in your on your healing journey? Was there a person, an incident? What launched you in that direction?
Well, I didn't even realize that it was a healing journey until it was over with.
Oh,
Um, yeah, it was very strange. I had no idea, with this uh, preacher. I was totally blinded and led on this journey. And like I said, it was really tough. There was a lot of people hurt by this, uh, and that's in my second book. I mean, even my kids, and they still hold that stuff against me today, even today, because they haven't healed from that or forgiven. And I've tried to tell them, what forgiveness can do. That you can think of these things, and there's no more pain attached to it. But they've got to go through their own journeys and make that decision for themselves. But that was the catalyst, and it was very, very strange. It's like I didn't set out to heal whatsoever. It was just the strange journey, and then it ended, and during that journey, I lost everything. I mean, everything. I lost my home, my vehicles, everything in my home that I'd had for 20 some years, all my kids' stuff, every single thing. I was literally stripped all the way down to nothing, drug across the country, across the states, from Florida to um, Oregon, and then put into somebody's house, which thank God I had a roof over my head, that took my daughter and I in. And it wasn't until it was like 5 years. That was a total of 5 years from Virginia to Oregon. And it got so bad. It's so bad. I couldn't take it anymore. And I just, during prayer, just begged Spirit, please open my eyes, show me what's going on, show me what's going on. And I begged and begged and cried and cried. And after a while, it was like all of a sudden I started seeing what was going on. And to make a long story short, um, I confronted him with it, and it basically ended. And then it took a couple more years before I was able to put a lot of those puzzle pieces together and see how the healing came, all the things that happened, miraculous things, woo-wee, some miraculous things happened during that time, and was just able to put those puzzle pieces together. And the healing was just overwhelming and beautiful how it all panned out. And that's what landed me up here in Texas. And then I met a wonderful man, and we did get married 4 years ago. um, so he's been absolutely wonderful and has stood by my side and always supported me 100%. And that always helps too.
that's fantastic. And our
Yeah.
audience will just have to get your books to get the whole story because this podcast would last for days if we tried to go any in much
Oh,
deeper.
yeah.
And so starting, okay, so your first book is about carries you through your teen years and all of that horrible situation. And
Yes.
second book you said picks up does it pick up in your teens and go through your 40s or
No, no, it picks up in my 40s. The first book's up to about my 40s, and then the second book's a continuance of that with that preacher and how I lost everything. And then it started showing towards the end of the book, the different paths and all the puzzle pieces that was putting together,
Mhm.
and healing that was coming out of that situation, out of that journey.
No.
I am. I am writing on the third book. It's been, for some reason, been difficult, but I need to get that done and out there.
What
I
is
know there's a lot of people waiting on it.
what is the focus of your third book?
um, the focus is basically about my twin and I, and the journey with her uh, towards the end there, and some miraculous things that happened as well. It's interesting how spirit has led me along my journey with different signs and symbols and things that I didn't know at the time what was going on, but later on did find out. So it talks a lot about her and I different journeys, and her where her heart was at the time, and how they were just totally different.
Mm-hmm.
The paths were just totally different. It goes in uh, a lot of detail about that, and uh, forgiveness and healing, and some other detrimental things that happened along the way.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. I know a lot of our audience will want to get the whole series. So yeah, you'll need to kick it in gear, get that third book out to keep everybody hanging here. And guys that are folks that are listening, this is real life. This is not she's not writing novels. She's writing
No,
life. And
yes.
and we see so much on television and in books that we just think that could never happen. Well, it does and it did. And she's a living, breathing example of coming through stuff that she had courage to do it. It built her confidence. And now tell us a little bit about how connections have impact, because you've had a lot of miraculous things. How have you had a miraculous connection with people and things like that?
Well, the miraculous things I was talking about, I can give you an example. It was, and so this is in the second book. So, oh, where do I begin? So Monty, his name is Monty in the book. Um, he, when we left Florida to go to Oregon, and what I didn't know at the time, my original car had broke down, and what I didn't know was he took the license plates off of that car, off of my car that's registered in my name,
Mm.
and he had two little cars that we were going to take, from leaving Florida to Oregon, and he put my license plates on each car.
Mm.
I didn't notice it at all. And here we're driving from Florida to Oregon.
Oh my.
Um, and so when we were in, um, I think we were in, we were made it to Colorado, and we stopped to get a hotel for the night. And so in the wee hours of the morning, I saw a flashing red light in the hotel. And I'm like, that's weird. Nobody knows we're here. Our phones didn't have any service whatsoever.
Mm.
And so I thought it was kind of strange. So I woke him up and I said, hey, I said, there's a flashlight over there. He goes, well, call down there. And he acted really weird. He got up and he went in the shower. And so I called down there and I said, I think I have a message. I said, I shouldn't. I said, nobody knows we're here because of our phones are dead. And she said, oh, yeah. She said, the police stopped by and wanted you to call them before you leave. And I said, oh, okay. I'm not thinking anything. I said, okay. I said, we're going to be leaving here in a few hours. So right before we leave, I'll give them a call. And she said, okay. So I told him what was going on, and he started packing everything up. And he goes, I'm going to leave. It was him and his son. He goes, we're going to leave, and daughter, sorry. We're going to leave, and you and your daughter wait here exactly 5 minutes, and then you leave.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay. And so this was all the belief I got to take a sip of water for that time. So we waited. Well, long story short, we did leave. We made it to Oregon. And after the whole deal was over, a friend of mine called me from Florida and said, "Do you know that you are on Florida's Most Wanted?" And I'm like, "What? What are you talking?" I thought she was kidding. I thought she was really kidding.
Oh my.
And I said, "For what?" And evidently, those license plates were registered, and I was supposed to be in court. And I'm like, I don't know anything about this. Well, anyway, long story short, um, we were holding a a gathering there for a weekend. And so this lady came in and she was prophesying over me. And she said, "I see that um, this whole car thing," because I told her what happened. She said, "God is just going to wipe it clean like it's never been there." And I'm like, okay. And I trusted 100%. And anyway, I found an attorney in Florida to take care of that problem. And his the judge that was in there at the time was really, really mean. And he said that judge is not gonna let any of this slide. He goes, "But I'm really busy. I'll get to you as soon as I can." I said, "It's okay. Everything's in perfect divine timing." And so a couple of weeks later, a new judge had come in, and that particular judge happened to be his roommate, the attorney's roommate during college and during law school. And so, just like that lady prophesied over me, everything was completely expunged. Totally, it's not even there anymore. I mean, just miracles like this just happen quite often throughout my journey. And I just feel so blessed because I know I was protected during this whole time, even though it was so strange.
Mhm.
I was protected. And that's one of the many little um, things that have happened throughout that particular journey.
Fantastic. Well, we'll have to dive into that. And
Yeah.
we'll have to be back after that third book is published. But for the sake of our audience, it's about time to wrap it up. But I'll have all of the links so you can purchase her books, the first two now, and the third one as it comes in. So we'll have your website, Eliza, and all of your information available so people can reach out to you because people need to know that you can come through this stuff. That's part of my journey, is people
Yes.
know that I survived it. And I prefer the word thrive versus
Yeah.
survive myself because my goal is not to just get through stuff, but to thrive through it.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So thank you so much for being my guest. This has been fun to catch up, and I learned a lot more than I already knew.
There is so much more to this story that I just want to get out, but on this podcast. But I know time is up.
Well,
Um,
if you want to share, I always give everybody gets a chance to wrap it up. So go ahead and share some parting words before we say.
um, yeah. So what I want to tell people is this kind of thing with sexual abuse. It is out there more than people know. I mean, more than people know. And I really say, please watch your children. Watch your children. Do not let them go when you're in a store or even out. Make sure you have their hand. Even your teenagers with on the phones and tablets and stuff like that. You know how sneaky they are. They can run off, and it's online. They can get a hold of your kids somehow, some way. I mean, just really, really watch your children. I grew up seeing this kind of thing, and it's out there. I'm telling you, it's out there more than you know. My neighborhood alone, just alone that I know, there's 4 people that have been sexually abused that I know of. I mean, I could probably ask other people, but I bet you there's more. And I do. I really tell people, please, please watch your children and watch other people's children. I do that when I'm out. If I see children running around, I keep my eye on them and I watch just to make sure nobody's trying to take them because I would probably step in, well, I know I would.
Mhm.
Um, but it's out there more than you know, even in public pools and stuff like that. There's people out there that are watching, and they're waiting for somebody, a parent, to not be paying attention. So I really implore everybody to please watch your kids, watch them, because they're precious.
Wise words. And I have a close friend who's going to be on my podcast next month who is and has been involved in the anti-trafficking industry for some time. So,
Yes.
so I want people to be aware,
Yeah.
stay awake, and know that it's anything is possible. So just
Hmm.
said, be alert and
Yeah.
step in. Don't let fear stop you.
Exactly. And watch your surroundings, even when you're going shopping outside in the parking lot. Watch for pieces of paper or some type of thing on your vehicle. Never, ever touch those things, because a lot of people will put some type of knockout drug on it. When you touch it, within a couple minutes, you're out. And there's just so much wicked stuff out there.
Yep.
And
We
just,
be wise these days for
yeah.
sure.
Yes.
Well, thank you again so much, especially for the final words of wisdom and having an open heart to share with my community.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well,
I
we'll have
really,
you back because there's more to the story.
there's much more.
Good
Thank
deal.
you so much.
Thank you. And audience, we'll see you again. This is Janice Debo signing off for Courage, Confidence, Connections podcast. Stay tuned. There's always more to come.
Thank you.